us this morning, the House and Senate Democratic members, to talk about the voter suppression efforts that are going on in the state of Ohio. It is not by happenstance that we are standing in front of a quote by George Washington Williams, who was the first African American elected to the Ohio House of Representatives in 1880. And his quote says the following: "Let Ohio speak for human rights, for universal manhood suffrage, for fair and honest elections, for economy and purity in public affairs." And just to add a finer point to what Representative Washington Williams had to say, we will add womanhood suffrage as well. So we are here today to lay out the relentless attacks by Ohio Republicans so far in the 130th General Assembly. And we also want to show how Republicans' restrictive approach to voting impacts real voters in our great state. Number one, the first attack on voting rights that we've experienced has to do with Ohio's lack of motor voter compliance. Motor voter is a federal law whose purpose is to increase voter registration and increase voter participation in elections. Instead of heeding the call to increase registration, Ohio registers far fewer voters than other states. Pennsylvania, for example, registers about 6 times as many voters at their BMV offices as Ohio does. Instead of heeding the call to register more voters and encourage participation, Ohio officials are currently using the motor voter law as an excuse to take voters off the list, with aggressive purging practices that target voters simply for not voting, in violation of the motor voter law. The Secretary of State recently put out a directive and trumpeted it as a new way for voters to update their voter registration online, obscuring its real purpose, which is to mark voters for a purge list, the death row of voter registration. The Secretary of State and the BMV have made major mistakes leading up to the last 2 elections by not transmitting data on time from voters who attempted to register at the BMV. Voters' ballots have been rejected as a result. The full extent of the problem isn't known because the Secretary of State has refused to provide public records that would allow a fuller understanding of who was affected. The true intention of motor voter, expanded registration, and expanded participation is being trampled upon, and we are failing to meet even the most minimal standards of compliance in the state of Ohio. Number 2, Senate Bill 109 claims to authorize electronic poll books and also claims to allow for the counting of votes where the voter booth selects a candidate and also writes in the same candidate on the write-in line, known as the double bubble. In reality, Senate Bill 109 is about needlessly throwing out votes even when the intention of the voter is clear. And this will happen only in certain counties, surprise, surprise, like the largest Democratic county in the state, Cuyahoga County. Republicans don't want to count votes, they want to throw out votes. In 2008, over 12,000 double bubble votes were counted. In 2012, a much lower number was counted in the state. Another example, in 2008 in Cuyahoga County, over 2,075 of these double bubble ballots were counted under then Secretary of State Jennifer Brunner. But only 218 of these votes were counted in Cuyahoga County in 2012 under Secretary Husted's much more restrictive rules for vote counting. Senate Bill 109 codifies the restrictive Husted rules, which have caused and will continue to cause voter confusion and does not count the votes where the voter intent is clear. The language in Senate Bill 109 also continues to push electronic poll books, but 11 of Ohio's counties already have electronic poll books. Electronic poll books cost a lot more money and are not proven to cut down on provisional ballots or save time like the sponsor of the bill claims. For example, in Montgomery County, They used them in 2012 election, and there was no significant improvement in the provisional ballot problems that were faced in Montgomery County. And I am now going to turn the